Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for your attention. I know that we're kind of getting into that stage of the day when you're hearing about another data set and you're like, oh, how is this different again? And so I also miscalculated a little bit my time. I thought I had an extra 5 minutes. So what I'll do is I'm talking to you today about eSTO and more. So I'll start with eSTO and we'll see how far into the more we get. But I'm Dr. Abigail Walsh. I'm from the ADAPT Centre at Dublin City University, and I'm here with Teresa Clifford, there, my PhD student. So kind of representing the eSTO team. So I'm just going to today talk to you about where eSTO came from, so kind of the history, which the NRS and principal projects were part of, where eSTO is right now. I'm just after realizing that's all number one. So yeah, I guess all of it's happening together. Where eSTO is right now in terms of what the work we're kind of currently doing is, and then take a look at our future work. So I don't think I need to spend too much time on this. It's already been covered. But I just want to highlight Irish language as a kind of an unusual, let's say, minority language in some senses. It's certainly low resource in the context of European languages and just the broader space. But in terms of Celtic languages, it has recognition as the first official language of Ireland. It's a national language. It is an official minority language in Northern Ireland, but it's an official EU language. So it has all of these different kind of markers of recognition as the kind of language representing this country. We can see here from the latest census data that the number of people with the ability to speak Irish is actually on the increase, but daily usage is still declining. So this kind of, I think, a bit of a trend in recent years has been that more, say, learners of Irish are kind of getting themselves more engaged with the language and feeling more confident and reporting on the census actually that they can speak the language, which is kind of always the kind of trouble, is that whether someone speaks a language is very much a personal decision and a personal kind of feeling that they have. So it's good to see. This kind of indicates, I guess, a kind of a growing positive attitude towards Irish language, largely spoken in these regions here. So I'm just going to start with where the eSTO project came from, was this European Language Resource Infrastructure Project, an ELRI project, which was kind of setting up all of these national relay stations across 4 countries, so Spain, France, Portugal, and Ireland. This project was co-funded by the European Union, and was essentially like, let's gather data into central repositories in these countries so that we can improve translation services in Europe. And then from that, so we had one such centre in Ireland, and then Principal project came along, and that was kind of, again, looking at improving MT kind of resources. So they ran it with these 4 countries there: Iceland, Norway, Croatia, and Ireland. And the data that was used then, when it was of sufficiently high quality, could then be passed on to the European Commission's e-translation platform. So these projects were very fundamental in kind of establishing this national relay station, which was based in Dublin City University, which once we had started it, then we wanted to kind of keep the ball rolling. So we've got, you know, a place to put all the data, and we have contact with, say, public bodies. But the NRS, as it originally stood, was kind of a copy of another site and used the kind of outdated language and software framework and this proprietary tool chain, and we wanted something ours. So we rebranded then, or relaunched as eSTO. So this was completely rewritten. We've got a new website, new tool chain, and it continued on again from those previous projects. We've got this 3-year kind of, say, duration, which started in 2023, but you know, it's continuing on from this work. So there's this gradual, like, continuous work this entire time. So this is our team at the moment, all the smiling faces there. So it's nice to actually see that when I first, you know, took this slide from the original presentation, there was like just 3 names. So we were kind of expanding, we're filling up the whole screen. I hope that we'll run out of space soon. But you can see there we've got 2 research assistants, a PhD student, a project manager, a PI, a software engineer, and myself, a postdoc researcher. So we're kind of a nice broad spectrum of skills. So what are we doing today with eSTO? So the eSTO itself is Sunri Changa Osculcha Egorer Reeve Froshala, so this open language data for automatic processing. And we're mostly focusing on the maintenance and improvements to the eSTO website and a lot of outreach activities. So basically going to public bodies, talking to them about their data, trying to increase the number of users and uploads to the site. And then other projects we've worked on is digitization of these documents by the RANO, so the kind of the translation service for the government, and development of tools for extracting language, so kind of pre-processing stuff. So the text is largely bilingual English-Irish text and monolingual Irish text data, and the online platform is intended to be very easy, so you can upload the data yourself, submit whatever licenses you have, and multiple formats are accepted. Basically, we'll do the hard work, you just need to find your data and give it, access to us to use it. And then when that has been processed, then where it's allowed, we can then continue to share it with the European Commission. So it's this nice little kind of nice, easy, let's say, pipeline from the data holders to the European Commission. So this is just what the website looks like. And I think I might already be running out of time, so I'll just continue with a little bit of what we're doing right now. We've all these different formats that we accept, and we don't want to make things too complicated for people uploading their data, but that in turn then means that we have to pre-process that. So the tools that we've kind of developed along the way include things like text extraction tools, parsers, there's sentence splitting, document alignment, something which I'm calling data reconstruction. Sometimes you get text that's already been pre-processed and maybe all of the capitals have been removed, or some of the words are actually tokenized and we don't want that. So we're trying to recreate what it might originally have been. And then just removing things like boilerplate text or any kind of duplicated text that's just not going to really enhance the data set. So we can see here some numbers. This is the reason the slides were so late. I was trying to get the latest numbers. But this paints a nice little picture of probably from the end of the NRS project to when we took over as eSTO until now-ish. I think the last data is actually from December 2023, but it's roughly where we are. So you can see that steady growth there has led to particularly the number of language resources and the users is quite nice. Language units we kind of use for translation units, sometimes words, sometimes in some cases it's just files, but it's essentially we're trying to kind of get a better measure than just, we've got 6 more documents and they all have 1 word each, so. And all of this work is kind of aligning then with the digital plan for Irish. So Michal Johnny actually mentioned this and kind of talked about what it is, but essentially after 7 years of putting this stuff together, there was experts kind of collaborating on this. They launched it, and it's where we need to go for Irish language. So it's actually a fantastic reference document for anyone working on Irish language technology. And you can see there that Teresa Lynn of DCU called it a kind of a roadmap towards making Irish language relevant in the context of our daily lives and technology use. So how much time do I have left?
1 minute.
1 minute, perfect. So if we wanted to think about the future then and expanding our scope a little bit, we have so many ideas, what to pick. So some things that we've considered is corpus creation. So as Kevin Scannell actually very helpfully just talked about, this idea of synthetic data, maybe using back translation to create more parallel data sets, or scraping from the web, or basically finding data in places we hadn't looked before. But also, further developing those processing tools. Some of the work that I've done on multi-word expressions would come in here. And of course, turning our attention towards the very popular field of large language models, chatbots, virtual agents. What could we do to enhance that? Then specifically my work would come more under, annotated data sets. So looking particularly for certain constructions like named entities, noun compounds, these specialized data sets such as multi-word expression dense data sets and MT evaluation data sets. So very specific purpose that maybe we have like general data, but we want to look at particularly these kind of features. So I've just highlighted these as kind of particularly interesting to myself. I added a little side note here for anyone who doesn't know what a multi-word expression is. It could be called a variety of things: idioms, phrasemes, compounds, collocations, multi-word terms. I've heard all sorts of things, but I consider it anything with more than one word and some level of idiomaticity. So you can imagine that covers a whole lot of different constructions. So in terms then of the data sets, sometimes, you know, you've got a lot of data, but maybe restricted in the number of domain, in the sort of the register, the kind of text that's being used, and then also on this level of like the idioms that might be inside the data. So those are all things that we want to consider when we're like moving forward with our data, and we're not just counting the number of words that we have. So one example was this: we kind of looked at noun compounds in more detail, started thinking about what, you know, what we could capture and how we could capture them. So I'll just talk through this example really quick, but the idea here is that in Irish, Faranfuist, there's this idea of a man of the post, so a postman. And that's kind of a concept that you can understand, you know. It doesn't, not anyone holding a piece of post is a man of the post. But then cotonaire just means the man's cat. It's just a nice genitive construction. Then you've got something kind of in the middle where like fruit of the earth, does it belong to the earth, or, you know, is it more metaphorical in sense? So it exists in this kind of gray area. So that's why we were looking at kind of how can we measure noun compounds using compositionality, and how can we maybe explore the data a little bit more by considering the kinds of constructions that might be in it. So I'm going to skip ahead from all of this. Unfortunately, you're missing so many interesting points, but you can talk to me about it later and I'll talk your ear off. But I just wanted to kind of go over some kind of conclusions from this, which is that we're missing some fundamental AI blocks, which is, you know, data. And this is putting low resource languages at risk of digital extinction if they're not being adequately serviced online. So what we found over the course of this project is being part of a bigger project will help close this gap, and going to be a team that does great work more so than the individual. But also government support is really crucial. So we've talked about things like data sharing policies, you know, funding from the government, and the digital strategy that was published, and all of this has been really great in supporting our efforts and other research centres working on things like Micheál Johnny's work and Kevin Scannell's work. It's all, you know, at some level supported by these digital plans and such. But also EU support is kind of crucial. So if you can find that kind of bigger kind of bodies that do offer financial support and others. What we also found is education and broad outreach is crucial, because at the end of the day, it's people providing the data, and very often there's this disconnect between people and their, I can see that my time is up. So thank you very much for your time.
We could have time for a very quick question. Thank you for the interesting talk. So you're talking about gaps in Irish NLP. I'm interested whether the gaps have to do mainly with lack of linguistic analysis, lack of basic NLP, where you do basic NLP tasks for which more fundamental research is needed. Because if this is the case, then obviously you can resolve this by having data, because for data you just run deep learning and large language models, and you can solve everything with data. So my question
answer it is simply it's a data problem, because we don't really know what we're missing until we know what the problems are. You know, there's this big lack of knowledge of what actually we know. So like, for example, the work that my PhD student, Teresa, is doing is, okay, well, we want to evaluate how well MT is doing. We could talk all day about blue scores and, you know, comparing all of these different models. But when it comes to performance in, say, a real-world situation, somebody is using a translation system to quickly translate a text they want to send to a friend. The system might be producing perfectly adequate content, but at the same time it's missing certain nuances and maybe even extra linguistic features that we kind of would like to see supported. And yeah, maybe with more data that would solve the problem, but where do we get the data from? What kind of data do we need? Like, all of these questions need to be addressed. So it's, when you're talking about, yeah.
It's kind of both.
Yeah, it's both, really. It's both, yeah. Thank you. Sorry for going over time.